The implications of whatever the lawmakers in Mexico decide will impact not only that country, but also others around the world. Here to help us understand why this matters is Manuel Suarez. He was the chief of staff to the governor of the Bank of Mexico and is now a professor at American University. There was a recent poll that showed 80% of Mexicans associate this company with corruption. Obviously, the president, Peña Nieto, is hoping by opening up the industry, that can change the complexion of things. Do you think it will?
Absolutely. The problem is that in a closed shop, you have several coalitions that are against you. First, the labor unions and the compadrazgo. That means that your fellow, your family, etc., gets a job. And feather bedding, as it's called technically in the U.S., means that a company that could be run with 40,000 is being run by 150,000. That's number one. Number two, when you have a monopoly, the temptation of getting your hands in the cookie jar is very high because the profits are enormous. And in this, a government monopoly that siphons off all its profits to the government, there are many chances in between for graft and corruption.
You were talking about the cookie jar and the money going to the government. They pay effectively a tax rate of 99.7%. Venezuela, the state-owned oil company, pays about 69%, still relatively high in some estimations. In Brazil, the state-run oil company there, 25%. So the Mexican government is very dependent on this tax revenue. How does that change things once that's not there for them?
Well, you are absolutely right. 1/3 of the budget of the Mexican federal government comes from oil revenues that are taken away from Pemex. That's about 6% of GDP. The government will have to make up that with other taxes that allegedly could come partly from the oil sector, because to the extent that you have more exploration, more exploitation, you will be virtually doubling the amount of oil being pumped up in 10 years. That means that you will have a larger tax base and you can lower the tax rates and allow Pemex to have more money for investment and so on and so forth. But that eventually will force the government to really do a serious tax reform, which is badly needed. The one they passed last year is a bad joke. So they need a much better tax reform with broader taxes and a much stronger base on which to.
We led off coming to you by talking about Pemex executives doing very well for themselves, government officials, and you were talking about the cookie jar, and yet the people on the lower rung not doing as well. Will this change that imbalance?
This will gradually do it in various ways. First of all, it will create jobs. It is estimated that within the next 10 years, it can create 500,000 jobs. Second, it will lower the cost and the price of energy, which is extremely expensive in Mexico. So it will lower the price of gas and gasoline. Third, it will increase the rate of growth of the country by between 1 and 2 percentage points per year. Now, all of this means that it will generate more economic activity, and therefore you are better able to deal with poverty much better than today, in which the profits of the monopoly go to the government or to a bloated labor union.
We're going to continue to trace this. We'll have you back. Thanks so much. Great insights. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.